Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, there is a theme at the summit this year about investing in tomorrow, today. And that sentiment is never more important than when talking about building communities. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking through the importance of F&B master planning, starting first with why building communities is at the forefront of successful developments, then talking about the role of F&B in master planning, how food halls are a fantastic accelerator of F&B master planning, and then looking forward to what is the next generation, what's after food halls, because certainly TGP have talked about it quite a bit for a few years. And then finishing off on the role of giga-projects and how important they are in the master planning and community building topic. So successful developments, I think everybody will have a different definition, but I think we've all known one when we visited. We know what that feels like, and it probably looks sort of something like this. A really vibrant place, it's got its own identity, it's got a huge mix of people and generations, and people that own it for their own, and then people that want to visit as aspirationally. And TGP's view on this is that communities and building a community around that is at the absolute centre of any master planning project. We are looking to achieve sort of multi-generational cohesion, so that mix of generations crossing each other throughout the development in sort of mixed-use spaces. And that is the baseline for the visitation, or the baseline of the community that in the development that will then drive the visitation. There are a few other factors at play about the need to build community. One is that we are all desperate for experiences. We've heard loads about the experience economy, but that for younger generations is becoming more and more important. And when we need to think about that, when we're starting to think about how to develop and plan a space. Westfield predicted quite a while ago that 25 next year is going to be the experience tipping point when retail will have at least 50% experiences dedicated to it. And then sort of on a sort of slightly sadder note, actually, as we've become more digitally connected, younger generation are becoming actually more lonely, and the health benefits or detractions from that are becoming more widely understood. So finding reasons to bring people to spaces is becoming more and more important. A great example of that transition and that need to think about community first with master planning is Hudson Yards, lambasted by the press, by the community, and really sort of felt excluded from this billionaire's playground. 20 billion mega project in the city has now transformed to actually a hugely successful sort of commercial terms, certainly for retail tenants, generated over $20 million more tax for the city than expected. One of the key things that it's been noted to is actually having to open in COVID forced it to react to the community. It became one of the only spaces in that area that the community could come and socialise, which pivoted the retail leasing strategy to be more localised. It now has cobblers, it has barbers, it has lots of small F&B spaces that it mix to what the community are looking for, and has now got significantly higher visitation, and the retail, leisure and dining mix is responding successfully as a result. The dining and leisure have been credited as one of the key things to driving the footfall and repeat visitation, which leads us to the role of F&B in community and master planning. It is that accessible price point. It is the thing that drives repeat visitation, and it is the thing that increases dwell time, which then either attract tenants commercially or retail tenants, and also allow their other tenants to perform successfully. We've got a number of proven case studies in this, actually very locally and in the region. Expo City Dubai, we are in charge of the F&B master planning for that project and the activation strategy, and have found that for this quarter, we've now got repeat visitation overtaking first-time visitors for the first time since the event, which is a great success, and the growth of visitation continues to grow each year. In terms of incubation and innovation, F&B is a huge driver and facilitator of this. Al Mamlaka, there's the lovely story of the pairing table by Alex Dilling, you know, a complicated concept that would be expensive to launch in bricks and mortar, and we've been able to incubate it in the Al Mamlaka food hall, which is, you know, one of the just the small success stories of that can be delivered through F&B. And then touching on accessibility. So, you know, everybody can afford some food at some price point, and people can afford, you know, lower price point food on multiple occasions. And, you know, that is what we're seeing at Al Mamlaka, average spend at 75 SAR. But interestingly, whilst that's a low price point, effectively, we're seeing huge increases in footfall in the mall. And the luxury tenants are seeing a huge increase in their revenue as well. So, you know, as that driver for footfall and for spend, F&B is at the centre of that. Food halls have been, you know, a key driver for the footfall and for the F&B master planning, and for developers to think about that as the anchor development or anchor concept for a development. And it's because they touch on all of those things: incubation, innovation, there's an accessible price point, and they drive footfall and spend. And whilst in some parts of the world, in America, they're seeing perhaps some food halls change and morph, there's certainly no seeming end to the appetite for them and their ability to build communities in the UK, Europe, and this part of the world. Al Mamlaka peak days is driving 7,000 people to the concept. And then sort of on a more global level, 72 billion is the expected size of the market of food halls by 2026. And a 97.5% success rate for food halls staying open for more than 2 years over the last 10 years. But what's next? Food halls, in our view, is a great model. They're flexible. They you know, provide lots of opportunity for different concepts, all under one roof. We now know this. It's been tested in the market and proven. But our view is that the next trend as this matures is the same model, but it flexes with different types of offerings. And something that we're seeing, again, actually born out of the UK, is the rise of competitive socialising. As retail, dining and entertainment blend, leisure and food are starting to become one very harmonious sort of combination together. And so for those that don't know, competitive socialising is activities, things like bowling, darts, arcade games, but in and amongst great food, great drinks concepts. The rise of in the UK is 20%, 22% year on year, and that growth is being seen across the world. Red Engine have done a huge financial raise to expand significantly in the US, and this is certainly something that we see translating to this market. In addition, we've now got, you know, at least a third of the world can work flexibly and expect things locally to them. And, you know, 70% of consumers expect personalisation. So having a food hall type concept that's localised to their community, that provides service retail, provides leisure opportunities in and amongst food, which is a great footfall driver, is what we expect to see as the next generation of the food hall model. To wrap up, so the role of giga projects in all of this brings us right back to the beginning of community building. Through the role of job creation, education, and entrepreneurial support with the sort of financial support that they can offer. We know that we've got 6 billion dedicated to supporting 70,000 small-size enterprises as part of 2030. To deliver that is the talent that's needed. In hospitality alone, 300,000 Saudis would be needed to deliver on the scale of the hospitality industry by 2030. To facilitate that is an education entrepreneurial incubation support that we would really call on Giga projects to think grandly about and think about how to support that perhaps through academies and other financial support structures. And one sort of reference point that we think is an interesting thing to consider is Bloomberg Philanthropies, the Women's Economic Independence. They've actually supported over 800,000 women into financial independence across Rwanda, Congo, and Nigeria. However, specifically, the Sustainable Growers Initiative has helped 360,000 women across 90 communities over a 10-year period. And something that's come out of it is the Q Coffee brand. So these women are supported to become financially independent through growing and education, which has then developed a brand called Q Coffee, which is being rolled out around the world. So that's the direct link between that financial support at an individual level via a sort of a global or kind of country level support through to a brand. I will close there before I just bring Andrew and Jihad onto the stage, but just to mention we have a trend report that we're releasing soon, which will share more of the details that I've talked about and Simon talked about yesterday. So please do look out for the launch of that report. I will finish there, and now invite Andrew and Jihad onto the stage. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got Andrew Williamson, Senior Director of Retail for Red Sea Global, and Jihad Dirani, Senior Director, Retail Leasing of Cenomi Centres. Andrew, I just finished there talking about the role of Giga projects and developing communities, and wondered if you could sort of talk us through what the initiatives or the extent you think Red Sea have been supporting communities in your projects.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here. Red Sea Global, when I joined Red Sea so my role is retail and F&B development, leasing, fit out, so the whole sort of, that whole structure of commercial assets, so third party operated. And when I joined, I just thought that's what I was doing. But actually when we looked at F&B, it's a whole ecosystem at Red Sea and Amala. They're in the middle of new spaces where there are communities nearby. Al-Waj and Umlaj are both about 45 minutes away. But it's not just a restaurant, it's the logistics, it's the engaging the community, it's training, so everything that you spoke about before. We're doing all of that. So how do you get the food to the site? We're working with local farmers to support the restaurants, to have locally supported food. So really food is about everything in life, and it's really it's a brand new development in a new area, so it touches all the different areas of food.
So it's not just the customers visiting this amazing development that's got all these incredible restaurant offers and hospitality offers, but it's all of the supply network that's...
The supply network, it's the people who are coming as guests to the hotels, it's the staff. There's a whole, we have 2 villages for the staff, which will each have 30,000 people. So they're on a meal program, but then we also have third-party operated restaurants in there. We have grocery stores. We have residential assets within there as well. So there's people coming for residential. So every way you can think of food, it's done in a different way. We have the hotels that have their own assets. We have Red Sea Global hotels. We have amenities such as the Amala Yacht Club. So we have the Monaco Yacht Club as our consultant on that. So that within that, there's restaurants. And it's looking at across all of those and not trying to cannibalize each other. And we own everything. So what is the right amount of F&B and that you put within all of that? So it's really quite complex. There's islands. There's on mainland, so there's all these different, how do you get the food to different areas? There's a lot going on. Well,
I was going to ask what the challenges are, but it sounds like you just answered it. Yeah, getting it around, okay. Jihad, I was going to ask, I mentioned about F&B being a driver of repeat visitation. You oversee the development of lots of really successful malls. To what extent would you agree with that, and how much have you seen it drive repeat visitation, dwell, spend?
I completely agree with this. I mean, if we remove the valuation element from the success as a success factor, from the way we look at malls and how successful these malls are, footfall is definitely the main driver, or one of the main drivers when we look at a successful mall. And we look also to sales densities. We look at the different categories, retail, food and beverage, etc. But to get to a sales density that is, sustainable, you need that footfall. And food and beverage today is definitely one of the main reasons why people actually visit malls. It's no longer about shopping or going to a supermarket, getting your convenience shopping. It's not about just the services, it's a combination of all of that, but most importantly, food and beverage today. And the synergy that that has with retail as well as leisure and entertainment. We are no longer building shopping centers or shopping malls, we're building lifestyle destinations. That's the new, the cliche that everybody's talking about, but it's a reality. That's what we're seeing, that's what we're building now.
Could you say they're communities?
Yeah, for sure.
To what extent do you think that they drive, is there a community that is identifiable for different malls?
For sure. When we look at an existing shopping center, and we've got 22 of these, or new malls, and we've got 7 in the pipeline, you look at the catchment area, you look at the population, and you start looking at the retail GLA demand, and you strategize accordingly. But what's important about food and beverage, it actually brings people together. We look at food halls, and around the world, but in the GCC, you look at UAE and Dubai, they've got a number of great food halls today. And we're seeing with what you guys have done at Mamlaka, you've done a great job. It's bringing people together, it's bringing the community together. It's all about the local heroes, the local brands, the homegrown brands. It's about the artist, it's about the culture element of it. It's just bringing that community together.
With such a grand project, Andrew, for such as Red Sea, how much does F&B master planning play into that?
It's critical to, as part of Vision 2030, you've got a number of different elements. You've got people coming as tourists from outside of the GCC who've never been in the region, so how do they experience the Saudi culture and food and the traditions of Saudi food? And so how do we do that in a traditional way, but also in a modern way? So there's looking at that for people from the GCC, delivering a type of F&B that they are used to or that they want, so comfort food. We have, as I said before, the staff, how they, different price points, so we have to try and find operators that want to come up into a distant location and maybe operate multiple franchise or brands that they have at different levels, so that there's a proper business model for them to make it work for them. So there's a lot of consideration around all of that, right? And trying to do some really unique concepts, bringing Saudi culture of food together with international chefs to do something extraordinary, different, and really create unique dining experiences across the resorts. So it's really big part of that is within the hotels themselves, which is not part of what I do, but it's working with the hotels to ensure that we're sort of arranging these different touch points with food and how it's all blending together.
And which kind of leads me on to the next question about innovation, and I guess you must get to be exposed to some really interesting concepts, and as you say, that blend of Saudi culture and international. Is there anything that you've seen, you've noticed as trends, or where you think it's going, or?
And even the local brands, local community that has F&B concepts. So we have pop-ups with them in our communities that exist now. So it's such an important part of the whole culture of Saudi Arabia. Globally it is, but here food is really about community and meeting And it's really important that we deliver on all these different levels to keep everybody happy, right? So the most important thing is that the staff who are serving at a luxury level to the guests, they're also extremely happy, and so they live in a beautiful staff accommodation. It's fantastic, with all the right food, and then we're blessed that when we reach out to global F&B operators, they're excited by our project. They want to be part of our project. I have somebody coming up this week. We're taking up the site who are doing some really exciting things globally around food, and it's around sustainability. It's around giving to the community. It's not just about a restaurant. It's about a lot more than that. And so all of those touch points around sustainability, community are really a big part of what RSG does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned it when we were chatting last week about the size of the communities that are being built as part of the support infrastructure. What was it, like 30,000?
So we have 2 villages that are 30,000 people each.
Yeah.
At Red Sea and at Amala. There are other developments that are coming, other outer islands that will have also large communities on them. So you've got this very, very large community who are there's also food that's comfort food, let's say, to local people that we can have in that environment, in the local, and have delivered. So we have an app where people could have a brand that's something they love or their children love delivered into the hotel or into their residential areas.
Super cool. Fab. And I guess on the kind of topic of innovation, we talk a lot about the blend of retail, dining, and entertainment. What are you noticing, Jihad? Have you got any exciting?
We do. I mean, I touched on this just a little bit before. Food and beverage today is not about just opening restaurants. You have to think, what are the adjacencies? Who are we catering for? What kind of price point are we looking at? And we're not the size, obviously, of Red Sea, but we're building at the moment 2 of the largest lifestyle destinations in the kingdom, one in Jeddah and one in Riyadh. And you look at the F&B proposition in both of them, and it's quite unique. We're looking at a blend of local heroes, homegrown concepts, Saudi cuisines, but not just your typical Saudi cuisine, but a certain blend of that. And then you look at different propositions from food halls to food courts and premium dining as well. So you need to look at who you're catering for to start with and start looking at your adjacencies. We're building 2 luxury precincts, one in Jeddah, obviously, and one in Riyadh. So you have to have a level of high-end dining that is associated to that. You have to have a level of refueling areas to work with that luxury proposition. And you also have to cater for the masses. Obviously, the highest percentage of footfall will come from the masses. So you have to have different price point, different propositions. But at the same time, if you look at leisure entertainment today, you've touched on this during your presentation, competitive socializing is very important in every center. We've taken a big chunk of our GLA to have concepts such as that. You look at your Brass Monkeys in Dubai, you look at F1 Arcade in London, and you look at these different concepts. They're brilliant, and they serve as a unique experiential food and beverage proposition. So it's very different to what is existing today in the market. So we have to aspire to that for sure. And we've been working very closely with a group from the U.S. They're based in Las Vegas, and we're working with them to bring the concept here to Riyadh. And one of the most important elements of that is how do we integrate food, whether it's a food hall, whether it's casual dining, fast casual, all of these different elements, even impulse, how do we integrate it in the whole experience of leisure entertainment?
I think, we're seeing a change and a shift to morph of retail and dining and entertainment. Have you even had the conversation about flexibility with your development teams yet? About how easy you want to be able to make it?
For sure. I mean, they hate me for it.
Yeah.
But we've got to have a provision in almost every single retail unit. Because, you know, everybody talks about a certain percentage of your total GLA going for food and beverage. You know, that number is thrown left, right, and center, and, you know, people say it's 20%. It really depends on, you know, your overall strategy in the mall. But if we take 20%, for example, that's quite a high number. 10 years ago, it was probably 10%. 20 years ago, it was probably 5%. You look at our existing centers, as I've mentioned, we've got 22 of those. And the food and beverage proposition is not there, or is not there yet, because we're currently working on a complete revamp of our tenant mix and working on enhancing the F&B, the overall F&B proposition. So in our new developments, we're definitely working on provisioning all of our units, having that flexibility, being able to turn a retail unit into a cafe, or amalgamating 2 or 3 units to create one larger casual or smart casual or even premium dining concept. And for us, that flexibility goes into the leisure entertainment as well, part of the whole experience of entertainment.
I'll get the same kind of question to you, Andrew, then, with master planning at the luxury end, I guess. You know, that flexibility, is that, you know, traditionally it's been a very deliberate entrance lobby, a very specific cafe, and then an F&B offer here. You know, how much is that being thought about to flex as consumer trends change?
We have we don't have a mall. We have outdoor retail. So the weather up that part of Saudi Arabia is beautiful most of the year. It's obviously a little bit warmer in the summer and a little bit more humid, but it's a year-round climate. So we have a marina at Red Sea on Shura Island, and we have a marina in Triple Bay in Amala. So there's one sort of, Shura Island is more barefoot luxury, so we need to have brands that sort of suit that lifestyle. And Triple Bay is more like sort of a Monaco type of yacht club, hard edge, and more like Saint-Tropez. So we have built in a lot of MEP for F&B, but it doesn't mean we have to activate it, right?
Yeah, okay.
So as we develop the demand and as the hotel occupancy grows, then we can expand that third-party F&B into those spaces. So for us, it's really about balancing the quantum of F&B between hotels, amenities, and third-party.
Actual people visiting.
People visiting, yeah. But the F&B is obviously, it's in very key spaces along the marina. And the staff villages is along the waterfront, so there's beautiful waterfront central retail areas.
Perfect. Right. Well, I think we are out of time. We'll open up to the floor for any questions. You've got off lightly. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.